Hi, kids, and welcome to Cards Hub 365. Ryan Fagan with me, Randy Karraker. We are at the St. Louis Sports Show. We are at the DoubleTree Hotel in Chesterfield. We'll be here for a while, bringing you Cards Hub 365, but STLSportsShow.com is the place to go to find out about what's going on here this weekend. In just a few minutes, Ryan, this place is going to go nuts because Ryan O'Reilly, the other Ryan, is the number two Ryan at the St. Louis Sports Show is going to show up. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm watching this line with guys, people wearing Blues jerseys, and I'm pretty sure that he's the number one Ryan here today. But that's nice of you to say.
We've got a lot to bring you on Cards Up 365, not the least of which is that the Cardinals have made some moves this morning. Yeah. No surprise that Gordon Graceffa was sent down, probably unavailable for a couple of days because of the amount of innings that he gave the Cardinals. Roderi Munoz has been called up. But the big news of the day, Jordan Walker placed on the 10-day IL with wrist inflammation, and Ryan Vilade has been called up. But let's start with Jordan Walker, who had been so hot of late.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking before they started. I mean, you look at what Walker's done in certain situations, and his overall numbers aren't great, but he's got a 400 on-base percentage when he's leading off an inning, right? So he's starting rallies with runners in scoring position. He's batting over 300 with a on-base percentage in the 390. So he's been coming through in these moments. He's hitting over 330 in his last, 10 games, 12 games?
Yeah, with a 900 plus OPS,
right, too. I mean, it's been impressive. This is what they've wanted to see out of Jordan Walker. And it's with the wrist injury, you got to be careful, right? Wrist injuries are the types of things sometimes you're like, I'm fine. And then you hurt it a little bit more, you tweak it. And I mean, that's where so much of the power comes from. So, before we hear exactly what's going on, you hope that this is kind of precautionary. They made it retroactive, which you don't make it retroactive unless you expect them coming back soon,
exactly, right?
If he's going on the 60-day AL, it's not a retroactive thing.
Retroactive to Thursday, correct?
Right.
To the 29th.
Yeah, so hopefully it'll be a short stint, and it doesn't kind of get him off the momentum he's built here lately.
Yeah, and the other part of this is they call up Ryan Vilade, who'd been playing pretty well, hitting reasonably well down at Memphis. 5 homers, 31 RBIs. He slashed 280, 375, 476 slug with an 851 OPS. But I wonder, Ryan, if he'll be the guy that'll be able to take advantage of the at-bats that become available. Will it be Alec Burleson? You'd think, you mentioned that Gorman will get some. Who will be the primary beneficiary here, you think?
It's probably Alec Burleson, just because he's going to be in there every single day. He'll take that spot. And then it's got to be Gorman, right? I mean, look, this year was supposed to be about Nolan Gorman, and he hasn't been what they wanted, right? And it's been tough to find at bats for him, obviously, because Arenado's still here and all these other guys are playing well, and he's been kind of left out. He's not going to lose at bats to Ryan Vilade, though, right? So I think Vilade comes in, and he's a guy. He's 26. He was in the majors with the Rockies back in 2021. So he's been around for a while, right? He's a guy that you feel like you're gonna call him up. He'll be a fourth outfielder. He'll pinch hit. He's got good on base skills, so he can be that guy that comes in and maybe more so than a Michael Ciani, right? He's a better at bat in the late innings. That's probably why he's the choice here. This has got to be a chance for Burleson's been hitting great lately. I mean, he's been the kind of, let's be honest, like for most of the second half of last year, he was one of their best hitters, right? Yeah. He gets a chance to kind of continue what he's been doing. And for Gorman, it's more at bats. It's not every day, but it's more at bats than he's been getting.
And one of the advantages that Walker has had is that he has been given every day at bats, and that's what they wanted to do for both of those guys. That's why they were trying so hard to move Arenado so that they could get 6 months out of Nolan Gorman. And remember, he started off on the bench, and then he got hurt, and he's never really had that consistent even 2 weeks like Jordan Walker has been able to experience these last two. And maybe that's something the Cardinals will look at, because they're still telling us, even though they're in the race and they're in the hunt, but I know you're hearing the exact same thing. They still want to give runway to their young players, and this might be the opportunity to do that for Gorman.
It could be. I mean, and at some point he's got to get it, right? I mean, at some point you have to make the decision: are we ever going to give him this chance, or are we going to move him? You know, I mean, I think that's not a conversation they're having right now, but down the road, that's something they've got to think about. But he's the kind of guy, you know, I mean, he's got so much power. I mean, I know you've talked about it a lot this year. He's the kind of guy, if you can turn him into that Kyle Schwarber type of player, right? He's got that potential. Yeah, he's going to strike out. But if he can make contact on a regular basis, he's that type of. I mean, you know, the Cubs gave up on Kyle Schwarber, right? Even after his World Series heroics, they still gave up on
the Nationals.
And the Nationals did too. I mean, and then all of a sudden he becomes this guy. Gorman has that potential.
Yeah.
If it's not going to happen,
right?
though.
25 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's interesting because even with this injury to Walker, it still doesn't give him at bats.
Right.
The only thing that gives him at bats is trading Arenado.
Yeah.
That's really the only thing that happens.
The one thing, and it'll only be hopefully for 10 days, but the other move the Cardinals could make when you talk about getting Gorman into the lineup, you say, hey, guys, how do you do that? Well, then Donovan goes to left field, Newbar goes to right, and Gorman is your everyday second baseman for those 10 days or however long Jordan Walker's out.
But then you're taking Burleson's bat out of the lineup on a regular basis, or maybe putting him at DH, but then you're putting Herrera down. So, yeah, I mean, it's like it's funny because so many players have stepped up and become irreplaceable that Gorman's kind of been got the short straw so far. Yeah. But you know what? You got to produce. And the other guys have. I mean, Herrera has put himself in a position you cannot sit him ever. Whether you're talking about trying to give guys runway, whether you're trying to talk about competing for a playoff spot, he's got to be in there. And Burleson's been that guy lately too. And all of a sudden, Gorman, it's not fair, you know, in air quotes, that he hasn't gotten the same runway as some of these guys, but sometimes that's baseball, right?
Yeah.
They've got too many guys.
I want to get your thought on this, and this is not something that I've advocated for 2025, but it seems to me that Ivan Herrera is a pretty athletic guy. If I were the Cardinals, I might be inclined to at least explore checking him out in left field during the offseason and seeing if the ability is there for him to play left field, because I think he is more than a DH. I think that he's not David Ortiz, who has no position, or Schwarber, who really has no position.
Right.
I think Herrera has more athletic ability, that he could be an adequate player elsewhere, and not first base, because Contreras is going to be your first base, but great baseman. But I think he could do things for you that maybe some other guys on this team can't.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it feels like he's not the plodding, you know, Dan Vogelbach or, you know, guys like that. You know, he has the potential. But the key thing you said there is right. Is it's in the off season.
Yeah,
let's work on that.
Not now.
Yeah.
We've seen enough with Jordan, who's athletic also.
Right.
Who started his.
It's not easy.
No, it
is not easy. You know, and I think Cardinals fans remember back to when, you know, Skip Schumacher transitioned to second base, and you're like, oh, well, he did that. Mm-hmm. Anybody can do it. It's not easy.
No.
Right. Especially when you've been in one position. And Herrera coming from a catcher, and I think this is something that guys who have transitioned out of catchers, you're looking at the game from a different perspective. At catcher, you're the only one facing out. You're not looking in like everyone else is. So I think that would be something that, I think that they could explore that. It feels like he's the kind of guy that, I mean, and it's not just Pages and Pozo. They've got a long run of really talented catchers.
Like 6 of their top 30 prospects.
Exactly.
Right?
So, you can see a scenario where Herrera could be your best hitter, but he's not your catcher.
Right.
And I think that's what'll be interesting to see.
Eventually, and as the game evolves even more, you're going to have to be able to throw out base runners, and he just has not shown the ability to do that. McGill Design, one of our great supporters here at Sports Hub STL. I think we actually need Ciani for his defense in close games if Walker is on the IL. I'm not sure about that. I think, well, not that it would hurt, but I think if you have what we talked about, if you have Newbar in right and Victor Scott in center, and then I would guess that at the end of games it would be Burleson in left, right? It'd be nice to have Ciani, but I don't know that the outfield is that bad that you have to give up the chance to have offense and a guy off the bench, a guy that can give you an at-bat off the bench, for a guy that has shown that he just can't hit.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, Burleson's not awful. Like, he's never going to win a Gold Glove. He's fine in a corner spot. And Yeah, Siani, you just wonder. I mean, I know they love him. They gave him a lot of play last year. You just wonder. I mean, even when you look at his numbers in Memphis, his on-base percentage is like the 320s. He's not showing that he's taking that giant step forward. Like some of the other guys. I mean, Fermin down there is tearing it up.
Yeah.
On-base percentage over 420, batting average over 300. He's not doing that. And maybe if he would, and he could show that he could be a bat off the bench too, then he would have gotten the call, I think. But in this situation, they feel comfortable enough with either Donovan or obviously Donovan or Burleson out there in a corner spot in the late innings that they'd rather have some sort of pop off the bench. And ideally it would have been maybe Luke and Baker, but he's not hitting at all in Memphis. So we'll
you
see.
know what's interesting, Ryan, and you've been around a long time. When we talk about guys off the bench, I hope that when the Cardinals are ready to win, that maybe two professional pinch hitters. I think when we talk about inefficiencies in the sport right now, and that's the big thing with analytics, finding inefficiencies in the sport.
Right.
A real good professional pinch hitter is something that doesn't exist anymore. When you look at the Cardinals bench, for example, there's no veteran there. There's nobody that's had to sit up regularly on a bench for 8 innings and then come in and face a guy throwing 100 miles an hour. All of these guys have played all the time, and it's not easy to come to the major leagues as a 24, 25-year-old. You've played all the time in the minors, and then all of a sudden they're asking you to come off the bench cold. And it's interesting because in talking to some hitters, they say it's the hardest thing in baseball to do is to pinch hit.
It's absolutely a learned skill. There's no doubt about it. And I think that's why when we talk about Nolan Gorman struggling in the chances he's gotten, it's not easy.
No.
Like nobody, and I guarantee you, nobody in the Cardinals organization is looking at Nolan Gorman's pinch hitting numbers and saying this is why you're not getting a chance.
Yeah.
That's not there because it is a skill that you develop. I mean, that's why a guy like Mark Sweeney was in the majors for so long.
Mabry too, right? Those
Mabry
two guys.
too. Like there's so many guys that can do that. I mean, especially it's nice if it's left-handed because a lot of the flamethrowers in the late innings are right-handers, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's something when you look at, not that this is necessarily where you want to go, but like when you look at potential for what are they going to do at the deadline, whether it's sell off pieces, whether it's add pieces, you're not really in a position, and I don't think there's any need to go out and add, unless there's an injury, to add like an impact everyday player.
I agree.
But
100%.
you look at the bullpen, you look at the potential for pinch hitters off the bench. There's ways to accelerate the potential to win games. Because when we talk about runway, and Joe and I have talked about this a couple times, but you want to give guys an opportunity to succeed in the majors. There is no better way to do that than seeing what they've got in August and September,
right,
in a playoff chase, right? It's one thing to give a guy a runway in May, right? But if you're giving them the chance to hit, to show what they can do in a playoff type environment, I mean, you've talked to guys over the years, they'll tell you they're in that first playoff stretch and they're like, this is different, right? It's different going from the minors to the majors. It's different going from April to September in the game that matters. And I think they still want to get their guys the most opportunity to learn that they can.
And you use that term, learn skill. And some guys, like Albert Pujols, the heart rate is like, it doesn't matter. It could be April 15th or it can be October 15th. Heart rate's always the same. Some guys always, boom, 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 boom. They come up on September 3rd, and it's a different sport. It's much more intense. Everybody knows that the chips are down. And I agree with you 100%. You can learn, though, how to get your heart rate down and be an effective player when the chips are down.
It's funny. I've had a chance to talk with a couple of mental strength coaches with different organizations. Justin Sua was a guy with the Rays, and I talked to him back when we were talking when baseball implemented the pitch clock, right? And not so much what it was like for the pitchers, what it was like for the hitters. And he talked about going through all these mental exercises with his Rays players about learning to keep the heart rate steady and not to get that heart rate when the clock was ending, and these types of things. And I mean, as a pinch hitter, you have to do that. It's different. And especially when you're facing 100 miles an hour. I mean, guys like Mark Sweeney and Mabry, we're not facing 100, 102 coming off of some of the nasty, pitching ninja type stuff we're seeing now. So it's a skill. And I think and that's the kind of thing that if they want to do that, if they decide that's where they want to go, you can do that without breaking the bank, without trading any of the high-level prospects.
That's why I say because I think you can still find those guys, and other teams aren't signing them. Most benches are really young players, but you give that guy on the back end, like Matt Carpenter was supposed to be last year. He lost it. But there are still players out there that have the ability to hit, that are kind of in that invisible middle class of baseball, that because of their price, $4 or $5 million. Corey Dickerson was a great example of that a few years ago. He could still hit. He had a great August for the Cardinals, but he was a guy that had been around, could come off the bench, and he was a left-handed bat off the bench. You can still find those guys, and I think if you have those guys in the late innings, it's going to give you an edge over everybody else in your division.
I think so, and because the division, I mean, the Cubs aren't going away. The Cubs are a good
They're
team,
going to be good for a while.
Going to be, if the Cardinals are going to catch them, I mean, they've been playing such good baseball. Well, 18-6 in the last 24 games, the Cardinals, and they're still 3 games behind the Cubs. This is a really good Cubs team, and if you're trying to steal wins here and there, I mean, that's how you do it. You know, you come up with the 2-out hit in the 8th inning with a runner on second, and you score that run that pushes across. And sometimes you have to, you know, you'd love for your young guys to do it, but, you know, if you can bring in a guy that gives you a better chance. And that's what I'm curious, and I haven't really looked into this, but because, I mean, the Cardinals don't have that guy, like you said. Mm-hmm. I wonder how many of them are out there, because it's not an emphasis.
No.
Right? I mean, I don't know that there's a Matt Stairs out there that they could go out and get, but I mean, that's kind of fascinating. I have to look into that.
Yeah, it'd be a good study. By the way, the Cardinals did get an RBI hit in the 8th last night. Didn't really help, though. They lost 11-1 to the Rangers. That's Ryan, for me, that was one of those games where you're going to win 60 and you're going to lose 60, and that's not a typical Cardinal game. It's not a typical Ranger game. And that was one that the Rangers were going to win and that the Cardinals were going to lose. It was a weird game because you wouldn't have expected that the Cardinals wouldn't be able to hit. You wouldn't expect that the Rangers would be able to hit. As a matter of fact, you looked it up before we started. That's only the 3rd time all year that the Rangers have scored in double digits.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the time they scored more was 15 runs, and that was back in April. So it's been a struggle. I mean, the Rangers have been bad on a level, but I mean, it's still the majors, right? They've still got the potential. They can still hit mistakes, and that's what they did. You know, the best thing I think about last night for the Cardinals is they learned they had another potential reliever in Alec Burleson, right?
Right.
He can throw fantastic. Big innings down the stretch.
He gave him a scoreless inning. They're loaded now. Yeah, you go Leahy in the 7th, Burleson in the 8th, and Helsley in the 9th, and you're in pretty good shape. I do think that, and I know that we are reactionary, and that's great. That's why we're able to succeed, is because we are such a reactionary sports town. And I'm talking about Matthew Liberatore. Matthew Liberatore did not have a good outing. 5 innings, 7 hits. He allowed 4 earned runs, 5 runs overall, struck out 5 and walked 1. But he just didn't have a typical Liberatore outing. But if you go back and look at the best years that Chris Carpenter had, or the best years that Clayton Kershaw had, every really good starting pitcher has like a bad outing a month.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah, it does. I mean, that's like, if that spirals into like 3 or 4 or 5 bad ones in a row, that's fine. But I mean, when you talk about like the best stories for the Cardinals this year, I think he's in the top 3. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any question about it, because I mean, he didn't spend the off season saying he's a starter. Like, he showed in spring. I mean, he's always wanted to be a starter. Mm-hmm. You know, you've talked to him. That's what he sees himself as. He's been so good. Even as a blow-up game, I mean, he's still at 5, right? He still didn't attack. He didn't get chased in the 3rd inning, which I feel like he started in the past. That's happened.
It's all perspective, because if Miles Michaelis gives the Cardinals that start, I'm happy with it. Right?
He has he has been so good that you expect more.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. 4 earned runs in 5 innings, one unearned run, but still 5 strikeouts, walked 1 guy. It's going to happen, right? He's been so good this month. I mean, really, he's been so good his last 8-9 starts. He's had 2 bad starts this year. Yeah. I mean, he's been fantastic. Yeah.
Sports Hub STL presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Don't forget to play DraftKings Pick 6 today. And thanks to our friends at Gray Bar as well for supporting Cards Hub 365. Great to have them with us, and great to have you with us. That's Ryan Fagan. I'm Randy Karraker. Don't forget, you can join us on the chat. I thought Justin Hutchins had an interesting point here that I'm going to respectfully disagree with, talking about how Jordan Walker played in Springfield and played 3rd base there, and they should have never moved him. And he wasn't awful, but he's also grown up. He was like 220 when he was playing 3rd base. He was 260 pounds now. He's 6'6" and 260. And I don't know that with the bend and the things that you need to do, the agility, not that he's not athletic, he is, but I just don't think that he's agile enough at this stage of his existence to be a third baseman.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, even when you look at like early scouting reports, it's kind of one of those things like the scouts would say, yeah, he profiles as a corner outfielder or a first baseman. These types of things. He was never the list of third basemen who are 6'6" and 250 in Major League history is not big, right? It is not long. There are some.
Cal Ripken, right, for a while,
and he was 260 though.
No, but he was 240.
Yeah,
right?
he was like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah, 6'5".
Yeah, it's and A-Rod was a tall shortstop. It's not been. Troy Glass was a big Troy Glass was a big guy. It's not much though, and Walker always kind of felt like he was going to transition, and maybe the Cardinals should have done that right away. I mean, it's not like they waited long. I mean, they moved him out there, and it's been a challenge, but he's been better. I don't think he was ever going to be that guy, and the fact that not only Arenado was in the organization, but Gorman as well, kind of at the same time, it was a pretty easy choice. Yeah,
right, and Walker has the skill set because he has a really good arm. He's fast. We've seen this year that he has the ability to be a good right fielder.
Yeah.
I think the more he plays, the more reps he gets, the better he's going to be. I don't know if he'll be a Gold Glove, but he's got the entire skill set, the toolbox that you need to play right field.
There's been times he's chased down line drives or balls that I didn't think he was getting to. Like the ball off the bat, you're like, oh, that's down. And then all of a sudden he has this closing flourish because he does have good speed. Again, not a 50 stolen base guy, but he's got good baseball speed. He doesn't have necessarily stolen base speed, but he's not going to hurt you in that manner. And when he's learning to have his routes better, I think that's a big thing in the outfield, is learning to get those routes down, the first step. And I think that's what he's worked a lot with John Jay this year on getting to that point. Yeah, it's been a good year for him. We just hope he's not on the IL for too long to kind of lose that momentum.
Yeah. By the way, I want to get your take on this because I really think John Jay has been an underrated addition to the organization with the different drills that he has for the outfielders. And we talk about Walker improving, but Victor Scott II, who was a couple of years ago, he was the Gold Glove center fielder in all of minor league baseball. Newt Barr appears to be better. All of these guys seem to be ascending defensively.
Yeah.
I can only think of one reason, and that's John Jay.
Yeah, I mean, Victor Scott has talked about it often. I mean, he got the baby glove thing from John Jay. I mean, John Jay was so good about it. And he was one of those guys, we talk about first step and something that Walker is learning. John Jay's first step was fantastic. It always felt like, again, you watch the ball off the bat and you're like, uh-oh, is he going to get there? And Jay was already like in the direction. Like he had a sense of where the ball was going. He knew what was happening. And he's been that guy who can kind of help different types of fielders get there. He can help Jordan Walker become a solid defensive outfielder. He can also help Victor Scott become the best version of himself, the guy that is going to become a Gold Glover, because that's the type of thing that he can be. And we've seen that all over, and I think that he's helped Alec Burleson too. So I think when you look at the impact that Jay has had, the impact that Brett Brown has had as the hitting coach, and it's not to knock the guys who are there, right? But they've done a great job of making the players they have better.
And people work better with a veteran group. People work better with young players. And Jay, his coaching experience was down in Miami, working with Skip and working with that group of all young players. And now he's with a young group here. I think some guys just have a greater ability to make a young player advance. And some people are better with veteran guys, where you just let them go out. If there's something wrong, you can correct it. These guys are being trained rather than being corrected.
Yeah, they're still learning. They're in the bigs, but they're still learning. Yeah, Jay's done a good job at it. Yeah, there are some guys that you can take. I mean, Tony La Russa's staff was great at taking veteran teams and making them the absolute best versions of themselves. And I think that's something that Jay has been really good at, taking these young guys and making them better than they had been.
All right, we got to get to the Cardinal lineup here. What do we got? Here
there you go.
Is it? Oh, there we go. So we got Newt leading off, Wynn, Donovan, Contreras, Herrera, Arenado, Burleson. There he is in right field. Pages, Victor Scott, and Sonny Gray is the pitcher today for the Cardinals. That's kind of what I expected.
And that's a solid lineup.
Yeah.
When you've got a guy, I mean, Burleson's hitting. I had it pulled up here. Let me find it. He's been hitting in his last 12 games, 359 with a 995 OPS. So you're putting that into the lineup on a regular basis in your 7th spot.
Yeah.
6th spot. That's
pretty good.
That's pretty 7th spot. Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's a deep lineup. I'm amazed that the Rangers have the second best earned run average in all of baseball.
I mean, we talk about great stories this year. I mean, Jacob deGrom.
Mm-hmm.
His fun, like we have this list of guys we perpetually wish would be healthy.
Yeah.
And it's Jacob deGrom. It's Mike Trout is number 1 on the list.
Right.
But it's been a while since we've seen deGrom be good for a long time. Yeah. And he's been that this year. And I think he's pitching tomorrow, right? Against the Cardinals.
Yeah. Patrick Corbin today, by the way.
Patrick, man, I mean, if you would have told me that Patrick Corbin would be a reliable starting pitcher for the Rangers this year, I would have lost that bet. Yeah. I mean, he'd spent the last 4 years for the Nationals taking the ball every time he got out there.
Yep.
But getting shelled on a regular basis, 5.5 ERA.
Yeah. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, and he's been fantastic for them. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see.
So it's Gray against Corbin today, a 3:05 game. And by the way, you got to give credit to Mike Maddox. He's the pitching coach in Texas, and it's not easy to be patient with guys, especially guys that you're paying $35 or $36 million to that don't pitch. But the patience has paid off so far with deGrom, and to turn around a guy like Patrick Corbin. Remember, one of the things that initially the Rangers or the Nationals wanted when they were going to trade Juan Soto, they wanted somebody to take the Patrick Corbin contract off their hands too, as part of that.
As they should have.
Yeah, they weren't able to pull that
Although
off.
I mean, not this is the point, but I mean, the package that the Nationals got back for Soto was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, Wood, Abram, Gore, and even Robert Hassel in the minors.
Yep.
I mean, that's the dream, right? I know some of these guys haven't quite become what they want them to be, but so much talent.
They had a game earlier with those 4 because Hassel is up. So Hassel, Wood, Abrams, who is he?
Gore is the Mackenzie Gore.
Mackenzie Gore. I think half of their starting 8 was
from that trade.
And plus Mackenzie Gore.
Yeah.
So pretty amazing.
I mean, it really is impressive.
And that doesn't happen when you trade a star. Look at what the Cardinals gave up for Goldie or for Arenado or for Mark McGwire, for Matt Holliday. They never had like a well above average player come out of any of those deals that they regretted moving to get those guys.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like that was kind of the Cardinals' MO, is they would trade away guys who had some sort of value but never really did anything.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I know Carson Kelly went to Arizona in the Goldschmidt deal, and he's kind of found himself with the Cubs this year.
Yeah.
Right. But he wasn't the impact that Goldschmidt was in his time with the Cardinals. So yeah, they've done a good job. The Nationals did a phenomenal job scouting the Padres system, because I mean, James Wood was a young guy, right? Mm-hmm. He was this big guy, but they saw that he could harness the power. It's one thing to be big and strong and tall and all these things. You still got to hit the ball, right? Mm-hmm. Baseball history is littered with big, tall, strong guys who never did anything. But they identified all these guys that they could get, and they did a fantastic job.
Yeah. So hopefully the Cardinals will be able to hold the Rangers down today, like they didn't do last night. And Sonny Gray, this is why you're paying Sonny Gray $25 million this year to be a stopper. Granted, it's only 1 loss, but you don't want to lose 2 in a row. And Sonny Gray is in a perfect spot today to stop a 1-game loss.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's the kind of he's a good guy to throw in this. He's a guy you want to have in this situation. I mean, you know, Joe and I have talked about this a lot this year, but it's like he's a guy that even if he's not been great his previous start, you still feel like the next time Sonny Gray goes out, he's going to give you 6 and 2 to 3 earned runs. He's going to keep you in the game. He's the kind of guy that is going to give you a chance to win when you get to the 6th and 7th inning. And sometimes it's not as sexy as a guy who's going to throw 7 shutout, but it's a guy who's going to give you a chance to do a lot of these different things.
Ryan, good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see
Ryan
you, man.
O'Reilly back in town. Good to see you, brother.
Nice.
Ryan O'Reilly he doesn't have the long beard going anymore.
No, it's not the playoffs anymore, right?
No, right. He'll be part of the St. Louis Sports Show, STLSportsShow.com, getting his round of applause. The former Blues captain and, of course, the Conn Smythe winner in the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals, and he is signing here today. You can go to STLSportsShow.com. Want to touch on a couple of other items here. Katie's Organic Oven is here, and she'll be here through tomorrow. She's got these incredible sourdough gluten-free cinnamon rolls, which are absolutely delicious. So you need to come, when you come to the sports show, check that out. And then right next to us, Ryan, I think that the kids of St. Louis have really connected with Brendan Donovan with the hair and the headbands and everything. And there's a group right next to us called True North Gloves, and at the table there, they've got a contract with Brendan Donovan. So they've got all kinds of headbands, autographed headbands, gloves, all kinds of stuff. So when you come to the St. Louis Sports Show, check out True North Gloves. It's right next to us. It's when you walk into the right side, with a lot of cool stuff. But I think the Cardinals have a really solid member of an organization on their hands. And we talked about this yesterday on the Randy Karraker show. I want to get your take on this. We talked about it with Bernie. To me, if there's one guy that the Cardinals on and off the field should get under contract for a long-term contract, to have him here for a while, it's Brendan Donovan. Not that I would dismiss Mason Wynn, but to me, Donovan would be number one because I think he's the guy that Cardinal fans really relate to.
And he's just such a solid presence in the clubhouse. He's a guy that is reliable. He's a guy that can play multiple positions. He can help you fill in if other guys get injured. Like we talk about, Jordan Walker going down, and Donovan could slide into the corner outfield spot and not miss a beat. Right? Yeah. He could be that guy. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious what type of number it would take.
At 28, right. You're talking probably a higher AAV, right?
What's he got? 2 years left before free agency?
I believe so. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
But he just seems to be on and off the field, and I think the Cardinals have a couple of those guys. Maybe because I think Victor Scott is one of those guys too. I think Scott, Wynn, and Brendan Donovan are all.
Yeah, Donovan's got 2 more years after this, so after 27.
About Donovan, number one, he's been here longer than any of those guys. Yeah. And it's not a little thing when he starts in position of a player that makes his major league debut and getting him the big old bottle of champagne and having everybody on the team sign it for his debut. Just taking that sort of a leadership role to me is something that every good long-term organization needs.
He's the kind of guy that when you look at the Cardinals and think, okay, what are they going to be 3 years from now? What are they going to be 5 years from now? What are they going to be 7 years from now? Who's going to be part of those teams that are successful? And he's right at the top of the list, right? He's probably not going to win an MVP award, right? He's maybe not that kind of guy, but he's the guy that is going to be the key to a successful team. Because again, he helps you weather all sorts of things. And he's the kind of guy too, you don't feel like he's going to hit 34 and just fall off.
No,
right. The bat to ball skills are going to be there. He's very good at like pitch recognition. All of those are skills that kind of age more gracefully in baseball than some things do. So yeah, I mean, I think with a couple years left under contract, I wonder how. I mean, that's something I'd love to know, like Chaim Bloom's secret list of priorities, right?
Yeah.
And like where extensions and all of these things, because they haven't really had to think about that much lately. Because the contracts they've had. They've known where that was ending. Goldschmidt, you knew that was ending. Arenado, if they still have him, but it's ending, right? They're not under pressure to kind of get these things done. He might be on the list because he's a guy. When they're going to be successful, he's going to be a guy that's in the middle of that.
And I think it would. And I know the Cardinals have financial issues because their attendance has gone down. The TV money isn't there, but you're at a point now, if you're the Cardinals, where you can get some guys at bargain prices, because if Anthony Liberatore has 3 more years like this, then all of a sudden he's a $40 million guy.
Yeah.
People like Wynn, people like Victor Scott II, even if Walker winds up being what you thought he was going to be, if Walker winds up, if these last couple of weeks are real and he comes back from this wrist injury, placed on the IL this morning, by the way, if you haven't heard, with wrist inflammation. But all of a sudden you're looking at Walker, Scott, Nootbaar, Wynn, Donovan, Pages, Herrera, all of those guys would be worthy of contracts, right? And maybe Burleson too.
Yeah, I think Burleson's in that mix. I think I've always been a fan of what he can be, right? I mean, as he develops that consistency, as he develops that power a little bit more, I think he's a guy. He's right in that mix. And they've got.
And by the way, Liberatore and maybe Quinn Matthews too.
Yes, and I'm just looking at Cott's contracts here, looking at when guys are free agents. I mean, you've got the crop that are done this year, and Michaelis, Matz, Fetty, and Helsley. Aside from that, Nootbaar's got 2 more years. Donovan's got 2 more years. Then Gorman, Burleson, Liberatore, Wynn, Walker, they're all like 4 or 5 years out. So, I mean, they've got the potential to, with maybe an addition here or there, an extension here or there, to really kind of lock in what they can be easily for the next 4 years. And I think that's, if you're a Cardinals fan, that's an exciting thing.
Yep. One last thing here before we go. Tony La Russa, and we both spent plenty of time around Tony. Tony was big on winning the series.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals have won 7 out of 8. Ollie is not as big. He says we just try to win every single day. But I'm a big win the series guy, and you can't win the series if you don't win today.
Right.
Because they've won 7 out of their last 8, obviously lost the series to the Tigers. I look at this not as in the big picture, it's not a big game, but from what I like, from my perspective, I want them to win because I want them to keep winning series.
Yeah, because you want to keep that momentum up, and especially when you look at DeGrom on Sunday, right? I mean, because then you really don't want to get swept. Like you don't want to lose the series. You really don't want to get swept. And with DeGrom throwing the way he has, that's a tough task. Even though the Cardinals have been very good against the best pitchers, it feels like they kind of step up when they're facing those types of guys. But yeah, I mean, you want to continue the momentum. You want to keep going. You want to make sure you don't throw a 3-game losing streak in the middle of everything to kind of disrupt that. Not that mojo is a term you can define our vibes, but they've got it. It's a good mojo. It's a good vibes right now. You don't want to lose that. By losing to a team you should be beating, or should at least be taking a couple of them.
After this series against Texas, you've got 3 at home against Kansas City, and the Royals, by the way, have fallen on hard times. They're in 4th place in that division now, so they're a team you should beat. But then the Dodgers come to town, then the Blue Jays come to town. Well, the Blue Jays aren't dynamic in their division. They're still a really good
team. Yeah, they've got some guys that are throwing up shutouts here lately.
Yeah, and then you get into the division with Milwaukee, and then after the White Sox, you've got Cincinnati and the Cubs. So the schedule this is an important part of it. Every part of the schedule is an important part of the schedule, but this is going to be big for the Cardinals. Just hang in there with the Cubs until you can get back in the division.
Well, I think the last time we looked at a stretch like this was when they were going on the road to Philly, to DC, and then Philly, and then Kansas City, and you're like, okay. That's what he was going to be, right? That the hitting was kind of this thing that he may not ever hit major league pitching. He was a better pitcher. So, man, if he can add the pitching to the hitter he's become, it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, thank goodness for Joe Madden, right? He's going to do both.
Yes, and without restriction.
Right.
He's going to hit the days that he pitches. He's going to hit the day after, and he's going to play 162 games. Yeah, I mean, another manager, it might not happen. I know Joe's time in Anaheim didn't end with the wins and losses they wanted to, but he gave baseball the Shohei Ohtani we've seen the last couple of years. Yeah. Absolutely. And if he's not that guy, who knows if it happens? Right.
Because organizationally, and we can take or leave analytics guys, but analytics guys are going to be into the load management. And they aren't going to, the day after Ohtani pitched, he was not going to hit, right? They weren't going to give him that opportunity. And he wanted that opportunity, and it'll be great to see him back. Our Cards Hub 365 is coming to a close. Cards and Rangers at 3:05 this afternoon. Thanks to our friends here at the St. Louis Sports Show. This is cool, isn't it?
Yeah, this is really cool. I'm very excited. I mean, that since we started, the line for O'Reilly has gotten significantly longer, and I already thought it was pretty long.
Yeah. And later on, we'll have more. Kevin Coleman, new receiver for Mizzou, is going to be here. A lot of great autographs are available for you, and the show goes through tomorrow. Check it out at stlsportshow.com. Cards Hub 365, powered by Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. Thanks to everybody here at the St. Louis Sports Show. And Joe Roderick getting us on the air here. Pretty fabulous job. Thank you, brother. You going to coach baseball this afternoon? He's going to be coaching baseball this afternoon. So we appreciate him being here right now. We appreciate you being a part of Cards Up 365. Good to work with you, man.
For sure.
So we got to do more of this.
I know,
Don't
right?
we have to have him in on the Randy Karraker show? Yes, we do. Hey, thanks everybody, and we will see you next week on the Sports Hub STL.